Yo guys, so we're here, man. Full-on spoilerific review of Avengers Endgame. So yeah, right off the bat, time travel. The thing about this is this. Everybody knew that, and I think everyone knew, and this was my issues with Infinity War. Everyone knew that time travel had to be used, because my issue with Infinity War was like, everyone's going to come back. So there was no finality, hence why I didn't understand how people thought that ending was so powerful and the villain won. Like, no, yeah, the villain won initially, but we all knew that he would lose initially because Spider-Man already had a film coming out, Black Panther already had a film coming out. So that was my issue with the ending of Infinity War. But that being said, that is why I knew that obviously they've got to use time travel, because the only way you're going to be able to bring them back is by going back into the past and reshaping it and changing the history, so you can pretty much bring these dudes back. And the thing about it since this is that if this was a science fiction film, purely a sci-fi film, then that is where you have to open yourself up to criticism and be like, okay, how does that work? Does that work? Will that logically work if you went back and changed this time? Are you dealing with one timeline or multiple timelines? That's if you're making a sci-fi film. This isn't a sci-fi film. This is a comic book movie. So for me, people criticizing the time travel aspect of this doesn't make any sense. As soon as I knew that it was time travel, my mind just switched off and I was like, okay, look, however you do it, it's cool. I'm not going to look at inconsistency or anything like that, because you're a comic book movie. This is a superhero movie. You're not trying to be a sci-fi movie. You're not trying to be a scientific movie. You're not trying to be scientifically plausible. Obviously, you want a bit of plausibility and you want a bit of rules, because that adds to the excitement and the tightness of the story. But again, you don't have to look at it too critically. So when I just thought it was time travel, I'm like, look, let's just go on this whole time travel heist and let's just see what this guy's doing, and that'd be cool. So the aspects of that didn't bother me. If there were inconsistencies, that did not bother me, because that's just what this film was about. So I think the key thing just to jump off is the difference in tone. And this, because I already said in my non-spoiler review that I preferred this film to Infinity War, and I think the key thing of why I preferred this movie to Infinity War was the difference in tone and pacing. See, Infinity War, for me, it didn't feel like a film. There was no narrative, and I felt that if you haven't watched any of the previous films before Infinity War, you would have no idea what is happening, and when everything ends, you'd be like, okay, wait, what the hell? Endgame, you do still need to watch previous films to know what's happening, but I felt that somebody could walk into Endgame and still feel the emotional beats with what happens in Endgame. They could still feel all of the different things, because there's a story that is self-contained within Endgame that isn't overly reliant on the previous films. It's reliant on the previous films, but not overly reliant, because when Iron Man does the sacrifice, okay, you get it. I suppose with the whole Captain America story, you probably need to understand the whole Captain America thing, but you could still plug in you could pretty much make the mathematics of who Peggy Carter is, why he likes and everything, and what he did to spend that time. So you could still plug those things in, but obviously the Captain America storyline would have a bigger impact if you saw Captain America First Avenger. But with the Iron Man one, and even with the context of the story of what happened, again, it would be a bigger impact, especially when those boys assemble will get there. But I still felt that with Infinity War, it was superly reliant on the previous films. Whereas for Endgame, it was reliant on the other films, but not as much as Infinity War, but you could still enjoy it for the drama that it was. So the difference in tone, for me, many people would feel that, okay, it went a bit too slow. But I actually liked how slow it was, because this allowed you to really focus much more on the characters. And I think that when going into it, knowing that, okay, this is 3 hours, I already had that expectation of like, okay, we're going in for the long slog here. That is going to be a long slog. This is going to be really, really deep, and we're going to have time to really reflect on what happened in Infinity War. So again, one of my biggest beefs with Infinity War was no Captain America. In this, you saw Steve Rogers. Forget Captain America. You saw more of Steve Rogers and the leader of this team, of him say, okay, right, what do we have to do? How do we pretty much survive and live in the aftermath of everything that is happening? Same thing with Black Widow, with Iron Man, because again, the thing that I liked was the repercussions, people's reactions, people's emotions of what had happened after everything that went down. And I think that the key thing was, and I think one of the best things of this whole Marvel film has been the dichotomy and relationship between Iron Man and Captain America. You know, two different ideals, two different characters came at odds in Avengers, came together in Avengers because Iron Man respected what Captain America stood for and what he was about, and then they had that massive falling out in Civil War. And I think what you saw in a bit of Age of Ultron and Civil War really came to a head, especially at the beginning of this film, because you saw from Iron Man, he told, and again, like people will say, man, Danny Jr. gave a great performance. I feel that he should get a nomination for this, because I just thought that he played this. I think this is the best acting that he's done in all of the Marvel films. Before this, I thought his best acting was in Civil War. I think he took it up a notch in this, and I think he obviously he had a great act in this film. But when you saw him, you know, all thin and everything based on being in space, and you saw him really face up to your boy Steve Rogers and everything, he told them, look, man, I told you, if we had a protective police force, like what he did in Age of Ultron and what he tried to look for in Civil War, if we had a protective police force that was constantly watching, we wouldn't have the situation that we would now have. And then and that was really his anger that he had towards Steve, you know. And Captain America was like, look, man, it is what it is, but I still believe that what we did was right. So then I see Iron Man say, you know what, I'm done, I'm out, and then he pretty much goes his own way, because I think he definitely feels that, you know, they failed. And he has that personal failure with obviously the thing that happens to Spider-Man. So the key thing here is, and I think this is where the biggest kind of like shocking thing, or thing that pretty much threw me aloof, was when Captain Marvel arrives. See, I'm not a fan of Captain Marvel, you know. I think Brie Larson, she won an Oscar. I've not watched The Room, but I guess she's a good actress. I think I've not seen Captain Marvel, and I never will, because it's just not my thing. But so this is my first time seeing her, and I think I'm taking the character. It just doesn't work for me. Something about it just seems off. Maybe trying too hard, trying to be too tough, but it just doesn't work for me. So when she just comes and is like, look, man, we're gonna kill Thanos, I was like, with War Machine, like, wait, who the hell are you? I mean, why are you here? I mean, what? Who? So with everybody, I think they're like, okay, let's go and kill Thanos. Let's pretty much get our revenge and our vengeance on this dude, because this is the guy that pretty much caused all the stuff that's happening. So when we now switch and they now find where Thanos is. Thanos is farming and is wearing like a white shirt that looks like if it's from Gap or flipping Ralph Lauren or something. And the guy's cooking food. At the way he's cooking pounded yam and egusi, but he's basically cooking food. And all the Avengers pretty much come and they're like, whoa, who the hell are you? And they now have Thanos saying, look, man, I'm inevitable. You know, obviously that would you know, come back and rhyme again towards the end. But he says, look, I'm inevitable. What happened is what happened, and I destroyed the Infinity Gauntlet, so there's nothing you can do. The stones have been destroyed. And then Thor then chops his head off. And then Thor was like, yeah, well, this time I went for the head. So, but then once that happened and they kill Thanos, see, because my issue with that is this, and I think this is something that, my beef that I had with Infinity War and with Endgame is the presentation of Thanos. See, Thanos was amazingly well acted. The graphics are amazing, CGI is amazing, Josh Brolin, great performance for Thanos and everything. But I just felt the way that he was written, the way how he was presented, took away from his villainy. He had some great dialogue and everything, but I think this just goes back to how I grew up and with films that you had growing up is how you present your villain. And the best to present the villain is less is more, because it gives the villain that air of mystery and makes him a lot more scary if you don't know that much about him and he only pops off in different bits. The reason why Darth Vader was so scary in those first two films was because we saw very little of him. And whenever we saw him, he made a big impact. Sauron, we just saw we only saw about 10 minutes of him at Fellowship of the Ring, but we felt the dude's presence. So especially with Thanos, like, especially in this film, the fact that you just saw him get ambushed, strangled by Captain Marvel, and his head chopped off and everything, it took away from his fear and villainy. I get that, okay, well, this was him, he had already been done, and we're now looking at the past Thanos, but I was like, okay, yeah, they killed him. They killed him, and what the hell happened? But, so yeah, that's just my view. I just felt that, Thanos should have been less is more, and not really been shown too much, and even been shown have his head and face chopped off. So I think when that happened, you now have 5 years later, and I think things where the film really kicks in, because I think the thing about that is that, okay, you've killed Thanos, now what? And it was about how do they now reflect on what has happened, because yeah, you've killed the guy who caused this, but he still won. So you killing him may be able to like heal something, satisfy something within you, but at the end of the day, your friends are gone. They're gone and they're not coming back. So that cannot be erased. So I think, what really happens here is obviously, you have Ant-Man coming in, and I think it's like you're like a rat who has pretty much saved the day, presses a little button, and then this brings back Ant-Man. And then when Ant-Man comes back, and sees that he's actually one of the people who has actually been killed in the whole dusting thing. And thus, this now starts. Ant-Man now comes, and it's like, look, time travel, boom. So the crux of the story hence begins. There is a way in which we can bring each other back, going through the quantum realm, time travel. So this is now where I have some issues. This is pertaining to characters. Two characters that I had big issues with. Hulk and Thor. First of all, for Hulk. Hulk is officially a Class A brick. And I think he'll probably stay there for all time. You got completely and totally destroyed in Infinity War. That this guy got beat up. This guy got smacked down. So if anybody needed to show up and redeem himself, it was Hulk. 100%. But the way they presented him is that they pretty much made him much more of a comedian. Not as much as the little dude I'll mention, but they pretty much made him much more of a comedian. And obviously they did the whole, I think this has been in the comics, where he's managed to merge Bruce Banner and Hulk as one and everything like that. So when you're sort of like, okay, but then even from the very first scene when he's basically taking selfies with his fans, you're like, okay, so this is the take you're going to have on Hulk. And I just, like, you see, for me, I'm old school with Hulk. Like, everybody knows Hulk. He's one of the most popular characters of all time. And I'm old school with Hulk. The beauty of Hulk is, it is that whole internal struggle of Bruce Banner trying to control his rage, and the whole duality struggle of Bruce Banner the man and Hulk the beast. And I just felt that if any film called for the Hulk to really come in and show up and do his thing, it was this. Like, literally, Hulk hasn't shown up since Avengers. That's crazy. Hulk, one of the Avengers' strongest, he's the strongest member of the Avengers. I don't give a damn about Captain Marvel. He is the physically strongest member of the Avengers, Like, basically, which is what made Avengers so amazing, was when you saw Thor against Hulk, because those are two of the strongest dudes in the Avengers. So it just got, I was like, my gosh, because Hulk was pretty much the star of the first Avengers, and to not see him in here was just insane. It was just insane. So for me, I didn't like the way he was presented. Mark Ruffalo did a very good job, very good acting job, and I think a lot of the comedic beats definitely did work. So it was cool. So that's fine. Thor. Now, one of my very good friends, a guy that I've known my entire life, he is a massive Thor fan. And he's going to be watching the film on Sunday. So I want to know what he thinks about how Thor was presented. You see, when we first see Thor, I thought that was great. I thought that was amazing. That he's fat, he's overweight, he's a wreck, he's a slob. I was like, this is amazing. Because, and it's so good that it got hidden. And because remember, in all of the trailers, all we saw was Thor before the 5 years thing and in the first 15 minutes of the film. So I just thought the way he was presented, I just thought it was great because again, it was funny, it was tragic, it was sad. Like, look at what this guy has done. So, and also the comedy within there definitely worked for that section. But the issue I had was, this is Thor. And I think maybe I've got to induct Thor into class B. Maybe class A or maybe class B. I'm not sure, either class B or class C of the Brick Academy. And I think Chris Hemsworth has to be inducted as a Brick because Thor does have comedic moments, but Thor is still a serious character. Okay, he's a serious character. You're a flipping god, and you're one of the strongest members of the Avengers, and you're one of the only guys that can actually go toe to toe and step up and perhaps even defeat someone like Thanos based on how strong you are as a god. And I think the issue was that they pretty much kept that gag of Thor all the way through the flipping film. And I had an issue with that. I had a really strong issue that they kept the whole thing of Thor with his pot belly, his overweight and everything, and they kept using that gag for the entirety of the film. I thought that was a bad move. I felt that it was great to have it just for the first section, and then when you first see him, then once they now start to go into the mission, I just felt like, look man, it's a comic book movie. He does a special little trick or something, then he just loses the weight, and then he now goes back to his old school Thor and everything. And I would have liked it if he had grown his hair. He did grow his hair, but he grew his hair, groomed his hair, and wore his helmet. So this is now the original Thor that we know from the comics. But I just thought that him being pretty much he was pretty much the comedic gag. Like, a whole Thor was the comedic gag for the entirety of the film. So for me, I felt a great issue with that one. So those are just like my two biggest issues pertaining to the characters, But I thought that, everyone as a whole, the crew as a whole, I just thought it was a very good ensemble. I mean, you saw Black Widow, how she was struggling. She had bloody bags under her eyes. You saw Hawkeye, he had gone crazy. I'm a huge fan of Jeremy Renner, the actor. I think Jeremy Renner is a bloody good actor. And you just saw how Hawkeye, he had gone off the rails based on what we saw at the very beginning of the film, of how his family got dusted and how he just went psychologically crazy. So I think once we now go to the time travel aspects and people were now going into different things, I thought that's when the film really kicks in, because all the time I was thinking that how are these guys going to really keep me invested for 3 hours? And I'll be real with you. I was worried. I was saying to people that I've never watched a 3-hour comic book movie before. I've watched a 3-hour dramatic film, Godfather, Lawrence of Arabia, and so forth. Lord of the Rings, which is like a fantasy film. But a 3-hour comic book movie, I've never seen that before, because a fantasy film keeps you invested with all of the big, huge things that are happening that we saw in Return of the King. And like a dramatic film keeps you invested based on the acting and the stories and the characters, but mainly the drama that sucks you in. But how would a comic book movie keep you invested? Because again, most comic book movies like hour and a half, 2 hours and everything. But I think, and this is the beauty of the Russos and the writers, Stephen Marcus and Christopher McFeely, because the mixture of the writing and the directing, for me, this film was structured very well, because you could almost say maybe the first hour, maybe it was maybe in 3 parts. Like the first part was the aftermath of everything that happened and how are we going to rectify that. Then the second part was them actually rectifying it, going into all of the different time zones and retrieving the crystals needed to put back in the Infinity Gauntlet. And the final part was now the finale and putting things together and now going up against this Thanos. So I thought I've got to give full marks for the boldness of making this 3 hours and actually fully executing for 3 hours, because I don't think there are many people that would find this movie boring. I think some people would find the first part boring, but I didn't, because I felt that was needed, especially with all of the boom boom bam of Infinity War. So so they start going into the different time zones and so forth, and I thought this was great, because you're like, wow, you go back to New York, back to the first Avengers, you go back to the time of the Guardians of the Galaxy, you go back to the time of Thor. So it was so good just seeing all of these guys going to the different times and them having to view the mission. And again, I'm so happy I watched it the way I did because of the audience I watched it with. Because I'll probably save this till the end. Let me even wait. Audience best experience, because I want to save this point till the end. So, but I think one of the because there were many amazing moments, but one of the best moments that had a huge reaction was when you saw Captain America going to the lifts with all of the Shield guys we know are Hydra. Because the funny thing about it was that it was the same exact setup and look as what we saw in Winter Soldier, when Captain America had an amazing scene where he basically beat them all up in the lift in Winter Soldier, and then boom, gets his shield. But in this, you're like, oh my gosh, he's going to fight them. Are we going to have another fight scene? But he then whispers one of their ears, "Hail Hydra." Then the whole crowd just went, "Wah!" And he then basically retrieves the thing off of them. So obviously that was cool, man. So just with the missions and everything happening, they get the stones. And I think this now goes to the third part, which is, of course, the finale. And this is where it's about paying off here. And I think, because, people always tell you that, obviously, when you're writing a story, the beginning, the middle, and the end, everything is important. But if you don't have a great ending, it negates all the hard work you did building the story. A great ending is really critical if you really want to pop off. So it was great to see how they were able to execute this ending, because I think the best thing that they did, and obviously we saw this from the trailers, was how you had the original three that started everything off, face off against Thanos, and that's why you had Thor, Iron Man, and what's it called, and Captain America say, the original three, all three of us, we're not going to face against this guy, let's bring it on. And when you now see them fighting, you see how, remember, this is Thanos without any of the stones, without the Infinity Gauntlet. You now just see how tough Thanos was. So you just know that Thanos with the glove is literally unbeatable. So Thanos just by himself was literally taking on Thor with Stormbreaker and Mjolnir, as well as Captain America and the Iron Man. I just saw Thor and Thanos was just beating the bloody bricks out of these guys. And I just think the setting itself was amazing, because you saw how Thanos' ship destroyed everything and it looked like post-apocalyptic. So I just thought the visuals here, so I don't know who the cinematographer was, but the visuals here was so strong. For me, I can almost guarantee you that in every single cinema, this was the loudest moments and the biggest reaction in the film. And this is why I kept on saying in my previews and everything, don't spoil this. Because this is a moment, because if this was spoiled for me, I would have been pissed off. It would not have had the same effect if this got spoiled for me. So, because again, I had no idea that this was coming. Because remember, I was off social media for Sunday. I had no idea. So once you now see Thanos he put down Thanos. Sorry, Thanos put down Thor. Thanos then called Stormbreaker. Thingy intercepted Stormbreaker, and he was now putting Stormbreaker right into Thor's chest. I'm like, damn. Now, when I saw Mjolnir move, I was like, okay, Thor is now calling Mjolnir. And then when you now saw Mjolnir smack Thanos, I was like, wait, Thor. Yeah, so it's basically, Thor did his move, because obviously, Thor was able to get Mjolnir and smacked it. Then when I saw Mjolnir go past Thor, I was like, okay, so is it just moving Stoney around? I told you, man, Cap is my boy. He's my favorite character in all this MCU. And one of my personal favorite films, my most personal favorite comic book films for me personally is Captain America the First Avenger. That's just for me personally one of my favorite films. When Captain America took a hold of Mjolnir, yeah, I don't think I've ever been in a cinema that has had that loud a reaction to when he got Mjolnir. For me, it was a moment, and I am so happy. I'm so happy. I'm so glad that I watched it with the crowd that I did, because the crowd I did the whole double bill. So these were like hardcore fans. So when he grabbed Mjolnir, literally the crowd erupted. And when I saw, in my mind, I was like, internally, I pretty much jumped up in my seat, because I was like, what? I mean, because when I was watching the trailer, I was like, I love Cap, I love him and everything, but come on, what the hell is Captain America going to do with his bloody shield? And he'll get wrecked, he'll get destroyed. But when I saw him have Mjolnir, I was like, this changes the whole game. And the move when he went and he smacked thingy, and the combinations he used where like he'd throw his shield would go up, and then he basically combine his shield with Mjolnir, so Mjolnir and the shield will pretty much come down on Thanos, and then he then pretty much puts the Mjolnir up in the air and basically bring down Thunder. The combination moves he was doing just to smack up and sacrifice Thanos, I was like, nah. This is too much. This is too much. Like that sequence with Captain America getting Mjolnir and how he was fighting with Mjolnir, and and just even some shots when he basically rose up with Mjolnir to strike Thanos, I was like, nah. This is too big. This is too big. So for me, that was just an iconic, amazing moment. And as a Captain America fan, remember, I hated Captain America in the comics, I hated him in the cartoons, but the Captain America that Chris Evans has played, for me, one of my favorite characters of all time, easily. So that was just such an amazing moment for me. Obviously, but then Thanos then gets his way, beats them down. Iron Man tries to get him, he beats him down as well. And then you basically much see Thanos get his scepter, like his spear, and he slashes Captain America's shield in half, and he just moves him down. And this was, for me, this was the best shot for me in the entire film. Easily the best shot in the entire film, because what you have is you saw Thanos' entire army now come. And it just shows you just why Captain America is such an amazing character, and why Chris Evans' performance in this is so amazing, because when you just see the look on his face when he gets up and he sees this entire army, he knows that we're done. We've pretty much lost. But and this is why it does help watching all of the films, especially First Avenger, Winter Soldier, it just goes in line with what his character was, because in his mind it's like, I'm not giving up. I can do this all day, And that shot of where you just see Captain America by himself, like he strapped up his shield, and just see him by himself walking solo straight to Thanos and his entire army. That was just such an amazing shot, because you're like, if I have to die, I have to die, but I am going to keep on fighting until my last flipping breath. And again, for me, this had, I think, the second best reaction. And this just shows great filmmaking. This just shows great quality filmmaking, because we knew that they were going to come back. We knew that the characters were going to come back. But it's the way it happened. Because I think the track is called Portals that Alan Silvestri did. So it was the music, the way it was done when you just hear something, on your left. And the way you just saw all of the characters start to come. And the way people cheered, and obviously the loudest cheer was saved for Spider-Man. So when Spider-Man came, everyone just went crazy. And it's like, even if we knew that they were coming back, just the way it happened, and how you saw Captain America look around and be like, damn, I got my boys back. And then he then gets his Mjolnir and says, Avengers, assemble. for me, that just gave me chills. That just gave me chills, man. Because again, like it's cheap and everything, but that's what comic book movies are for. That's why we love these superhero movies, for these very cheesy moments where we know what is happening, but when it does happen and it's done and executed well, we love it even more. We love it even more. So, so when they just have their army on the battle, like boom, 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 boom. You know, look, I think now this is one thing that people are sort of criticizing, and like, you know, when Captain Marvel has like now that scene was crazy. Sorry, no. Let me be real with you. I said Spider-Man had the loudest cheer. Now, I think Black Panther had the loudest cheer. No, when you saw Black Panther, no, I think that had the loudest cheer, man. So people just went crazy. And that's when I really just saw Chadwick Boseman's face. You're like, nah. No. When you saw Black Panther, no, that had the biggest cheer. And he saw Shuri coming. People like, oh my God. So, no. Look, that was a moment, man. That was a moment. Just, especially with the crowd, it was a moment. So I think, okay, a scene that everyone is criticizing. But sure, before we get to that scene, what I liked was how everybody was obviously trying to get the Infinity Gauntlet, obviously to, I think it was to Ant-Man and everything, so they could pretty much engineer the whole snap thing. And you just saw how Black Panther took it, and he was also weaving through, then Spider-Man 6, he was weaving through, then now goes to Captain Marvel. And this is an issue that everyone had, is Captain Marvel has it. And literally, I don't know how people engineer this, that every single female character in literally every female character in the MCU were all in line and were all there presented to Marvel. Because again, if this was a realistic film, you're like, this is a battle, and battles are quite confusing. How did you get a situation where every single woman said, okay, let's all come together, every single woman in the rigmarole and the confusion of battle, and all help Captain Marvel through? But you see, for me, the reason why it didn't bother me that much is because this is a comic book movie. It's a superhero movie. And you know what? Fine. Let's give the woman the moment, because for me, it didn't detract from the film. They didn't overdo it. You see, the reason why I don't want to watch Captain Marvel is because I believe that that's like 2 hours of that. Of just women's live, and I can't do that. For a small little section, whatever, you know. And I don't know, I've heard other female critics and everything saying that, you know, that was a big moment for them. So, you know what? It didn't detract from the film. It wasn't overtly done. It didn't last too long. It lasted for a very small section. And yeah, that's cool. So I was like, yeah, whatever, man, whatever, you know. So obviously, this now came to the critical moments where, and this was actually a really good moment where Thanos pretty much had the gauntlet and it was literally about to snap, but you saw Thor try to stop him, Cap try to stop him, Marvel try to stop him. They all go fling away, and you see Iron Man get. And I think before Iron Man gets there, you now see Doctor Strange. Remember, it was Doctor Strange that gave the Time Stone to Thanos in Infinity War, because Doctor Strange says that there is, out of the millions and millions of permutations, there's only one that goes through. I think Doctor Strange says that for this one to go through, I need to give Homeboy the Time Stone. That's just what needs to happen. It's still not guaranteed, but what needs to happen, if there's even any chance of it happening, I need to give Homeboy the Time Stone. So obviously now when you just see Iron Man look at Doctor Strange, he now puts up one, which says that this is the one. And I think Iron Man, I knew that I don't know what I have to do. So somehow, somewhere, I don't know how, he then gets the glove off of Thanos, and then he now, after Thanos says, I'm inevitable, Iron Man says, I am Iron Man, which is a callback to what he said at the very end of Iron Man 1. And he then does the snap, and because of the gamma rays of the snap and everything, killing Thanos and his army is pretty much messes him up, because he can't deal with the gamma rays. So, and this is the key, I did not believe they would kill Iron Man. And the reason why I didn't believe that they would kill Iron Man is because Marvel like money, they like the cash, and Iron Man is Iron Man is one of the most popular characters in the MCU. I think him and Captain America are the two most popular characters. So I just thought, no, there's no way that they'd kill Iron Man, because Downey Jr. is too popular. And I was discussing this with people. 1000%, I truly believe that Downey Jr. said, nah, I'm cool. I want to pass the baton on. 11 years, that's a long role. I feel this is what needs to happen. And I think that, because the film needed this. Because I do believe that if Downey Jr. wanted to carry on being Iron Man, they would have killed Captain America, for sure. I believe that the original idea was to kill Captain America. But because I believe Downey Jr. said, you know what, I'm done with this, I think they said, okay, that's cool. We're gonna kill Iron Man. And if I tell you, when Iron Man was pretty much dying, I don't think that I've been in a cinema that has been that quiet. You could literally hear a feather fart. You could literally hear an ant take a piss. It was that quiet. The only sounds I heard was people like sniffling, because that is why this was so. I don't think everybody remember. I think after the film was done, Chris Evans put out a tweet saying that this has been a great ride. It's been an amazing, and it was a great last day. So everyone going into this, including me, felt that all right, it's Captain America. That either Captain America dies or no major character dies, and people are like, oh, how can? Very briefly, because I think I've most forgot about this, the Black Widow Hawkeye scene, that was actually a very well done scene. The whole thing of I want to die, and Black Widow finally be like, nah. You've got a family, my family were these people, nah, let me do this. So I think that was a very powerful moment for Black Widow, which was again huge. So I just thought I wanted to put that out there. But yeah, coming to this, people, the thought was either Captain America dies or no major character dies, either Captain America or Iron Man. So I didn't believe that they did kill Iron Man. I really didn't believe that they did kill Iron Man. Because I thought, look, this is Marvel, it's not going to happen. So when that happened, I was just in the cinema saying, are you kidding me? Are these guys really going to kill Iron Man? Because see, from a story point of view, which is why I feel that this film is such a success, from a story point of view, looking at all 22 movies, that is the perfect ending. That is the perfect ending because Iron Man began this whole thing. He began everything from part one. So it makes sense that the guy that began it ends it. And I think for Iron Man's trajectory, see, you'd expect Captain America to do the sacrificial thing. You would never expect it from Iron Man. Iron Man was always the guy that was the opposite of Captain America. He was the guy that would be like the last guy to sacrifice himself. He'd always try to look out for himself and be like, nah, I'm not the whole Boy Scout thing. I'm not the leader. So the fact that it was Iron Man that did that was so poetic and so right and such a great arc from the very arrogant, megalomaniac billionaire that we knew at the beginning of Iron Man 1 to a guy who pretty much gave the ultimate sacrifice to pretty much save everybody. So that was a very powerful scene and everything. And then obviously you had the whole funeral service and stuff, blah, 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 blah. So, and now this was another one, Captain America. You see, I'm very conflicted in this now. I don't know whether I don't know. Okay, so basically, let me just go through it. So basically, Captain America has all the stones, and then obviously Hawk people say, all right, based on the timelines and everything that happened, so we don't really mess with the timelines. You have to go back and return the stones all back to where you got them, and Captain America is ready to do that. So they say that it's going to be like 5 seconds for us, but it's going to be like obviously however many years and everything for Captain America. It's going to be like however long he then takes it. So when he now goes, he doesn't come back. It's 5 seconds and he doesn't come back. Whoa. And then finally, he then comes back and then he's then sitting. So now we now see someone sitting on the bench, and Bucky and Falcon now go towards the bench. At first, my first thought when I was in the cinema, I thought that, did Captain America do something where he basically switched roles and instead he gave the sacrifice and he allowed Tony Stark to live, and that's Tony Stark sitting on the bench. But then when you now come in and you now see old Cap, I was like, whoa. And let me know, guys, is that Chris Evans? I was discussing this with someone. Because if that's Chris Evans, that has to be some of the best makeup work I've seen, because at first I was like, oh, so just got another actor to play old Cap. I was like, oh, that looks a bit like Chris Evans. I was like, no. So I simply could not decide whether it was a different actor or it was actually Chris Evans who was old. So that was just crazy. Now this is my shaft. And you see, look, I'm black. Look, I'm Nigerian. I'm proud to be black and everything. Falcon shouldn't get that shield. Falcon shouldn't get that shield. The recurring theme from the first Avenger has been the incredible friendship between Captain America and Bucky. If anybody deserves that shield, it is Bucky. And I think that would make the best sense. And that would be such a great poignant full stop on their amazing friendship that began from first Avenger. Is it Captain America says, alright, I'm giving the shield over to you. I'm going to pass it over to you. Here you go, bro. And he gives it to Bucky. I just thought him giving it to Falcon. You've not known Falcon anywhere near as close to Bucky. And your friendship to Bucky is way closer than your friendship with Falcon. So, yeah, man. When Falcon got the shield, I was like, nah. That should be Bucky's, man. That's for me. That should be. But I know it's weird. Like, why should look? No, it should be Bucky's. An old Cap. I don't know, man. I don't know. I don't know how I feel about having an old Cap, you know. And you see, at first, you know, I was talking to my brother about this. I didn't like how it ended with Captain America finally getting his last dance with Peggy, because I thought that was quite like, you know, a emotional thing that was like, my gosh, Captain America, like, you never had a whole thing with Peggy. And one of the best scenes in the film was when you see them go back into the 70s, or I think into the 70s, and Captain America finds Peggy's office. And then he then sees Peggy, and you just see him stare at Peggy again, and he doesn't say anything because, like, man, I keep missing out. So obviously, I know it's a nice thing to happen to Captain America to finally get the last dance he wanted and to live a life where he now was able to live a life with the true love of his life, which was Peggy and everything. But I don't know, man. I thought, like, for me, it felt cheesy. But my brother said, like, if Captain America went into the past and he stayed there, he never came out. And the last thing that you see is him dancing with Peggy because he decided never to come back. He just decided just to live within this time. I suppose that could have been a pretty cool ending. And just having that montage and that dance then would have been pretty powerful, you know. So I guess upon reflection, I think it was a nice ending in the sense of it's a nice callback to the first Avenger of, man, I never had that last dance, I never had that last dance, you know. And you see him finally somehow, some way, end and get that last dance and pretty much, you know, live a life that he was robbed of by obviously being put in the ice. So yeah, look, man, overall, man, oh yeah, thank you, it's good to know. You see, because I watch many films in the cinema. See, my best cinematic experience, as far as just seeing a thing in the cinema with how big the screen is and everything, is either Fellowship of the Ring or Two Towers. The film I've watched the most times in the cinema that pretty much changed my life. So the craziest film I've ever seen in the cinema is The Matrix Reloaded. It's still one of the films I've seen the most. I watched it in the cinema, I think 7.5 times. But with regards to atmosphere and crowd reaction, by far, this was the best experience of watching a film based on audience interaction and audience reaction to what was happening. Like, just the way that people clapped, people cried, people cheered, people shouted, people sang, it was just such an amazing experience as far as an audience goes watching it this way. And that's why I just think that, you know what, I don't think Avatar is going to get beaten. It's like Avatar 2.7 is too much. I don't know how James Cameron came through there. But as people have said on Twitter, if there's any film that's going to do it, it's going to be this film. If Endgame doesn't do it, I don't think it gets beaten unless James Cameron does it again with Avatar 2. But Endgame has the best chance of doing the impossible. Because I think that 2.7 is the impossible. Because I don't know how the hell do they do it, because that's an original IP. But the way I just look at this film, I see rewatchability here. And I just think that almost everybody that I've spoken to said it's amazing, it's amazing, it's amazing. The Marvel films are so popular. I think even people who've not even watched the Marvel films, because when I went to watch it in the cinema, there was a guy who hadn't even seen Infinity War. So he was watching Infinity War and Endgame at the same time. So I think it's going to definitely spread. I mean, it's already beat Force Awakens for the biggest, I think, Thursday earnings. So the big thing is that can it break the record of opening weekend, 300 mil? So let's see what this does, man. Because, like, for me, when I look at Star Wars is trash. It's completely not so trash. Like it's finished years ago. But for this generation, like, again, of course, I've got beef with the film. Like, for me, I didn't like the comedy. The comedy was a bit too much. I didn't like how Thanos was presented as a villain. I thought that some of the action scenes could have been a bit tighter, more realer. Like, if it was me, I wouldn't use CG enemies. I would use enemies who are actually real and everything. So there are many different aspects, that's and issues that I may have and everything. But all in all, taking everything into account, compared to Star Wars, compared to Transformers, compared to Fast and Furious, this is easily better. And the way in which they ended it, and the way in which they just tied in everything that happened. Guys, let's be real. This is what Marvel and Kevin Feige spearheaded and began in 2008. This is insane. This is crazy. It is crazy what they've done. And I think when people look at the best comic book movies and everything, because people always bring up The Dark Knight, and I always have my view on The Dark Knight. See, for me, I don't feel The Dark Knight is a great film, because I know that they're much better written and better told crime films than Dark Knight. And The Dark Knight is not a great comic book movie because I think it's quite boring. See, Endgame knows exactly what it is. It's not trying to be real. It's not trying to be a film. It's purely a superhero comic book movie. And as far as a superhero comic book movie, especially the finale and the moments it has, this is definitely one of the best comic book movies I've seen. As far as a comic book superhero movie about representing superheroes and having superhero moments, like, I was bloody excited. I was really happy. I was really up, and I'm gonna watch it again. I have to watch it again. Because for me, the good far outweighs the bad. I can accept the pitfalls and the drawbacks because the good far outweighs the bad. And my guy Cap, he got his shining moments. Like, Captain America had the best moments in the film. So my favorite character had the best moments in the film. So I'm like, all right, it's win-win. So yeah, man, this has been long. Man, this has been a long review. So with Endgame, man, just have to see what happens, bro. Like, just tell me, so do you think this can beat Avatar? In my view, my prediction is 2.4. I think it will end up being 2.4 and end up ending the second most. So I think it will beat Titanic. I think it will beat Titanic, and I think it will end up having 2.3, 2.4. 2.7 that's too much. That is too much. So I don't know how the hell it's going to end. Because remember, you've got Aladdin coming. You have so many of these other films coming. And I think with Avatar is that Avatar just kept on making it week after week. So the thing about Avatar was, and that's why Avatar's money is so crazy. It ends like 90 million in its first weekend. But people just kept on going back and going back again and again and again. And that's why it just shows you that's why James Cameron is such an amazing filmmaker, because there's just something. Because I watched Avatar, I think, twice or three times in the cinema, and I've watched it about twice or three times on home video. It ain't the best film in the world. Okay, it's not the best written film in the world, but there was just something about Avatar that you just the world that was created, the way he told the story, the way they found that you could come back. But I think with Endgame, there's enough humor, enough drama, and a great ending and a great finale that I just think that, yeah, man, all else is that it has a shot. It has a shot because I think the masses, when I'm just thinking about the masses, most people will love this film, and I think a lot of people will go back to watch this film again and again and again. And I think it's like a crowd pleaser, you know. It's a great crowd pleaser. So yeah, we just have to just wait and just see how it all unfolds. But yeah, Endgame, man, wow, what a journey. Began in 2008, ended in 2019, and I think for me, I'm done with Marvel now. Yeah, I'm a Spider-Man fan, so I may watch Far From Home, but with Iron Man and Captain America gone, that's why this is, for me, this is the end of Marvel. A great ending, but I think this is a full stop, an end of Marvel as we know it. Peace.